Good afternoon. Welcome to our WGU Noontime Knowledge Lunch and Learn. We're excited to have you join us and share information about career services, resume tips, and getting to know you. I'm Nancy Fitzgerald, and I'm the Alumni Relations Liaison for the South Region. And joining us today is Cliff Garinn, who is our WGU Associate Career Advisor. So Cliff, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Sure, great. And thanks again for inviting me to present. Hi, everyone. My name again is Cliff Garinn. I'm one of 9 advisors here on our staff at the Career and Professional Development Center. I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and a little bit about our team so you know who you would be interacting with when you contact our office. First of all, let me let you know that as alum and graduates, you have lifelong access to all of our services. So there's no copay, there's no additional anything you have to do. Use your own WGU email credentials and you'll have full access to our services here at the Career and Professional Development Center. Now, a little bit about me. I come to you from Dallas, Texas. That's where I'm based. And I have about 16 years of career development experience. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and share my screen so that I can show you the presentation and what you have access to. And if you give me just a moment here so I can find myself, then I will do that. Takes a minute. Okay. And hopefully everyone can see that pretty well. So when we talk about career development and career management, what do we mean? What does that actually mean to you and to those here at the university? So when you're viewing this video, take a moment and just think about what career services might mean to you. What is the Career and Professional Development Center, if you will? So think about your 3 top answers to that. And then as we go through our presentation, maybe those answers will change. Maybe those answers will be expounded upon. But it's a good way to really begin thinking about what do you already know about who we are and what we do. So when we talk about our team, I want to make sure that you have a really strong understanding that our team is a very strong knit community, even within ourselves here at WGU, of career professionals. We do more than just resume reviews. You know, we may do a lot of resume reviews, but we also offer our best educated career and industry advice, guidance, recommendations on what your next steps can be, suggestions if you're stuck, if you're not sure what to do, especially in today's environment, kind of figuring out which way to go and what's your next opportunity that could be out there. We want to be here to help you reach those career goals. So how do we do that? Obviously through personal contact and connections with you, career coaching, the ability to set up an appointment, to call in by using our drop-in advising phone number. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. You'll have full access to all of that information. We do document reviews, so resumes, of course, because that's your first impression to an employer. So we want to make sure that you have a really good professional document that speaks to your own professional background and experience and skills and your qualifications for that particular job. Sometimes a cover letter can be useful, and that's still a thing. It's still out there. They're not always required by employers, but the recruiters I talk to say if you took the initiative to write a cover letter, we'll read it. And sometimes a cover letter can have more information or be a lot more conversational than a resume can be. So we want to make sure you also have a really good, well-polished cover letter as well. LinkedIn profiles that are there, If you have a LinkedIn account, we can look that over. We can do a professional review of those sections, let you know what might be your best next step and how to look online. I used to do a presentation called Managing Your Digital Dirt. So, how do you look? You have a good, clean look on your profile on social media. We can help you kind of mold that and shape it. Different ways to make connections with your peers, with employers. We have Handshake, which is our career platform that we use. We can help you to really tweak your profile to make it work to the best of its ability. Big Interview is our interview suite to help you prepare for the interviews that are coming up. That could be phone interviews, video interviews, or eventually, and hopefully soon, we'll get back into person face-to-face interviews. We have a whole series of live webinars. So if later on you want to watch a webinar specifically directed toward networking, we have that for you. If you want one that's specifically directed toward more of a deeper dive into resumes, we have that for you as well. Employer events, sometimes we'll have information sessions. We had a series of job fairs that were online some time ago. We're going to revamp those. Those will be coming back eventually. They're not published yet, but they will be coming back eventually, as well as a whole series of blogs and popular career topics that we write about that you'll have free access to. Again, 24/7 access to all of these self-service resources that we have, as well as an opportunity to make a personal contact and connection with our staff. So some of the topics again, and this is a popular question, folks will call and say, what exactly do you do? Maybe folks have gone to a traditional brick and mortar university and they can walk into their career services office. How is that different with being online? What exactly are the resources and topics that we cover? Many of them I've already talked about, but just to make sure that if we were to divide them into two different categories, career planning and job searching, again, we can help you explore. If you're a career changer and you're getting into a whole new industry, we can help you explore what that looks like and how to leverage what the expectation of the employers are today. If you're not sure what you want to do, you do know you wanted to get a degree, but what do I do? We have a series of career assessments that you can take to give you an idea about what's out there. There's not a magic ball, there's not any secret sauce or anything like that that's going to say you should do this, fill in the blank. But it will give you an idea of maybe where you're leaning or where you're geared toward, or even confirm what you already know about yourself. They're great resources and tools. They don't cost anything except time. I think that they could be very helpful for those of you who may want a little extra understanding or boost for that. Researching your industry, researching the companies. We have research tools for that. If your next step is to go to graduate school, maybe to a different institution, we can help you. We can help you, again, look at your resume. If you have an essay you had to write as part of your application package for that particular school, we can maybe give you some, be another set of eyes to read that over to help you out for that. We are building up our internship programs that will be going through Handshake. So if you need to gain experience, a lot of that can also be covered. Job searching, obviously the first thing you'll need, and I've talked about this and we're going to talk a lot more about this when it comes to resumes, but these are what I call marketing documents. So you're marketing yourself to an employer. The best way to do that is going to be a cover letter, a resume, that ability to talk about your 30-second commercial. So if somebody were to say, so Nancy, tell me about yourself. What do they want to know? What exactly is behind that question? So we can do a mock interview. We could do practicing on some of those behavioral based questions to help you out. Networking, again, networking both in person and online, because those are two different formats, if you will. So we can walk you through the best way to do that. And again, employer research, knowing you want to know who you're talking to. And if you're going to work for a company for a number of years and devote your life to that company, you might want to know a little bit more about them beyond what's on their website. So that research capability might be a really good idea to look into as you're making those choices. This is just a sample of what you would find, regardless of what your degree program is, if it's from business, IT, teachers college, or healthcare. When you go to our homepage, you'll find these types of resources available to you. So that could be job searching, it could be the job boards, it could be professional development. If you're already in your job, and you're like, hey, I'm already there. I'm already in my career, but how can I make it better? We have professional development tools and resources to help you along the way. Now, Handshake, as I said, is one of our latest career platforms that we use. And this is something that is nationwide. It's not just a WGU thing. It's something that many other universities and colleges and employers are using to be able to connect with your peers, with each other, with other folks in your industry. It's sort of a university's level of LinkedIn. So you can really have that ability to do a job search, an internship search, of course, but a lot of our events are through Handshake. Our job fairs are through Handshake. That ability to create kind of a job, not a job coach, but alerts, that you can set up almost like through Google, sometimes has that. All kinds of things that Handshake is building and growing and advancing. To make the best use of this is to really make sure your profile is 100%. So when you sign into your Handshake account, look at where your picture would be, and it should tell you where you are in the kind of the progress line of completion. If you're only at 35%, you can go all the way to 100% and get more uh, bang for your buck, so to speak, by using the platform. If you're not sure what to do, just contact us and we'll help you do that. We have lots of materials to help you maximize your use of Handshake. Now, I want to go into resumes and talk to you not a huge detail about every section of the resume, but some of the principal areas, sort of the selected top 10 areas of a resume to pay attention to. The first thing you want to know is the use of applicant tracking systems. These applicant tracking systems are kind of those bots that people talk about. I don't, how do I get through that robot? How do I get through that automatic scan that will get me to a human person? So those software programs are created to help employers and recruiters kind of go through a large number of resumes. So if you apply to a job and there are only 2 openings for that particular job. Say there's software developer positions, but that company is getting 800 applications. No one person or department is going to spend time to go through all of those. So the applicant tracking systems will do that automatically. That first run through of those applicant tracking scans is not to find the best resume, but it's to get rid of the ones who don't fit. So our objective of helping you is to do everything possible to make you fit so you can survive those ATS scans. So how does that happen? How do you survive those scans? First of all, you want to make sure your format is in the correct industry, if you will. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples because an IT-based resume is going to be very different than a healthcare resume or a clinical resume if you're a nurse or if you're going into, say, health informatics or information management on the healthcare side. I strongly recommend that you don't use a template. That's my both professional and personal opinion is that a lot of those templates are not always in the right format. And there's a lot of coding behind the way they set up the sections or the pictures or the icons or the this or the that. lots of things in the background that can sometimes be caught by that applicant tracking system and throw you into a spam folder. I've heard that from other IT professionals and recruiters. So a lot of the advice that I get from even the professionals out in the field is just use a Word document, build it yourself, make it ATS friendly, and you'll be fine. We've helped you to do a lot of that already by some of the resume samples that we put together for you to use. And at the end of the presentation, you're going to see some links that will take you to our resume page. But formatting has a whole lot of weight to it. So you want to make sure that you're using the right stuff for that. Tailoring keywords is also important because that's the only thing that that computer is scanning for. If I'm an employer and I'm writing up, or I work in HR and I'm creating a job description, I'm going to be putting in specific keywords that describe what's going to make you qualified. What's the job about? What skills do I want you to have? What experience do I want you to bring? So if you're using those job descriptions to show transferable skills, connecting you to those skill sets that are required, then you're going to have a greater chance, again, of surviving those ATS scans. Stick to just a plain format, .doc. I have heard that that's at the end of your file for a Word document. You'll see also a .docx, and I've heard some say that that particular formatting style or that file can sometimes mess up those ATS scans. So the two that seem to be the best to use when you're applying to a job would be that .doc or a PDF. A PDF is a protected document file. It's like a picture of your resume, so to speak. And those seem to be the most popular. Um, Google Docs don't always get through. And sometimes if you send a Google Doc and it asks for confirmation on the other side, sometimes we'll get that. We can't always do it. And so an employer is not going to take the time to come back to you to say, can you send me a Word document? They're just going to go on to the next person. So just to play it safe, I would stick to a standard file type. So at the top of your resume, you'll often see a professional summary or a profile, something to that effect. That's your 30-second commercial. So there are some key areas that you really want to pay attention to that we've outlined here. So you want to make sure that you list, how many years of experience do you have in that particular industry? If you don't have any experience, that's okay. You don't have to list that. But they do want to know, what do you bring? What are your strengths? What are your skills as it pertains to this job? What kind of experience can transfer, if necessary, into this role? So talk to us a little bit about your proven successes that might be part of that summary, and then you get into more detail as you go on through your document. So again, the summary qualifications at the top. There are a few examples that you can find online. There are some things that you can begin to reflect on for yourself. Here are some reflection questions that you can use to help create that summary qualifications. What are you good at? What do you like? How does it relate to the field that you're studying or you want to go into? What are your career goals? What accomplishments have you done to pertain to those career goals? If you're returning to work from a long absence, if you're a stay-at-home parent, if you're coming back from the military, what did you do during that time that might pertain to your career field? Volunteer time, if you're in IT, but you were creating, little sample software programs, mobile apps, anything like that can be placed on your resume to show what those accomplishments can be and what they look like. And then again, you want your resume not to talk necessarily about your past, but you want your resume to talk about your future. What are you looking for? Where do you want to go going forward? Right to the job that you want. So bullet points on your resume, when it comes to the job section, you might have a blurb about, your role at that particular company, and then the bullet points will reinforce that role. You want to make sure that they're not passive. So you don't want to just say, um, experienced in blah, 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 blah. You want to use an action verb. And again, we have resources to help you create or know what those action verbs are according to different industries. That might be helpful. You want to use the correct tense. And I've had folks that just they don't really align their tense to their work history. So they may have a past job, but they're speaking in future tense. That makes sense. So you want to make sure everything is consistent with that. Describe the project or the task that you were doing, that you were accomplished in, that relates to the job description. If you can include results or percentages or metrics or outcomes, that makes a really good impression to employers to show if you can do this for that job, then you can do that for us. And that's where you want to get to the point of. So here's an example, of how to quantify, you know, decreased. This is for a police officer. So we were doing this for the New York Police Department. So this was decreased burglaries by X% within the last 4 months. But you could fill in your own example. You know, increased sales by X% within the last quarter, something to that effect. So additional sections can be there. That would be at the bottom of your resume. They could be awards you made, but make sure they're within the last 3 years, 3 to 4 years, and that they're relevant. Employee of the month is probably not as powerful as employer of the year, for example. So think about things like that. Plus, you want to make sure that if possible, you're sticking to a one-page document. If you have significant experience, it could be a page and a half or 2 pages. But if you're losing space, then these sections are optional. So you don't always have to include volunteer work, community service, things of that sort. Professional associations are a big plus that's there. If you were in the military, this is the format you want to use. So you would put your branch. So like for myself, I could put United States Marine Corps, captain, um, morale officer, whatever that is. Don't put your MOS because they're not going to know what that is. If you put, well, I was a, Charlie Company 1945 designation, they're not going to know what that is. So just keep it more demilitarized, if you will. Um, any relevant skills that might pertain to your industry now, again, you don't have to if they don't, but then you'll put your honorable discharge and then the year for that. So that's kind of the formatting of anybody who has military service. Some do's or don'ts that would be relevant to consider. So the one thing you want to use when it comes to the font style is just keep it simple. Calibri, Arial, Times, uh, Garamond, Verdana, those are good font styles to use. Don't get too fancy with it because it's not going to make a big difference. But it will make a big difference if they can't read it. If they're looking at it and it's too hard to read, that can be a problem. So again, limit your resume to one page if possible, unless you have real significant experience. And significant experience in an industry could be 7, 8, 10 years in that industry, and you're going into the same industry. Maintain consistency in your formatting. Make sure the spacing is correct. If you have your dates to the far right of the page, make sure they're all lined up. It looks nice, clean, neat, consistent. That's there. Be specific when you're creating that summary qualifications at the top of your resume. Don't just send out a generic resume to many different companies. And I've had students say, well, that takes a lot of time. That's just a lot of time, a lot of effort that I might be wasting. But then their next comment is, I'm not getting any calls. Nobody's calling me. What happened to my resume? Why aren't people contacting me? Because your resume may not be speaking the language of the job description unless you're tailoring it. I used to, when I did workshops on this, I used to say, one size doesn't fit all. And if you create a generic resume you're sending out to many different people, it's the same thing as if you were taking your resume and you nail it to a tree and you wait for somebody to find it. It, you know, it's just not going to go very far. So try to tailor and target your resume to the job you want, to the industry that you're applying to. Try to avoid the entire job description when you're doing, if you're writing it out or using the job description of a model, don't cut and paste that into your resume or even on your LinkedIn page. They can tell, and it just doesn't look very professional. References upon request are no longer on resumes, so you want to avoid that. Um, Tables, text boxes, borders, things like that can clutter up your resume. And some tables and text boxes can't be read by those ATS scans. And so they're missing that entire content that you might be using for that. Don't use pictures. Don't use icons. Here's my email icon. Here's a little phone icon. Avoid that because that just, again, is not as professional as just keeping it simple for that. Avoid personal pronouns in your descriptions. You don't have to say I or me or I did this, my results were that. They already know that that's your document. And again, writing a resume is not the same as writing a term paper. So the grammatical rules are very different of a resume versus, an essay or a term paper for that. When it comes to your fonts, you can go down as small as 10 points. That might sound really tiny, but if you're looking at space considerations, you can do your margins to narrow on a Word document, and you can go to 10. Standard is probably 11. I wouldn't go more than 11 because if it looks like you're just trying to fill space, that can also be a red flag to employers. Now we're closing in toward the end of our presentation. Now I wanted to share a few more things with you. I talked about a sample, and if you can see this is kind of a business MBA sample of a resume, and you can see the formatting on how that can look. Your name and contact information at the top. You'll notice that the contact information is on one line to streamline that information and give you a little cleaner look on the page. Professional summary can be maybe 5 to 6 lines. You want it to be enough to get the point across, but you don't want to be very verbose. Don't be too wordy with your professional summary. Again, you'll see with the professional experience what that can look like, where there's a little blurb about your role in the company and then the bullet points that reinforce your role. Toward the middle of the page, you'll see additional experience. That could be experience that really doesn't have, it's optional. That section is optional. It may not have anything to do necessarily with the company or the employer that you're applying to, but it might have some relevant experience or skills, but not as strong as direct experience. So if you wanted to put that in an additional experience, you can do that. And then you'll see your education section. If there's room underneath that would be volunteer experience, military experience. If you have this, this is an actual sample on our resume resource page. So I wanted to show this to you, but there are many other examples as well. I put in here also an IT resume, and the difference you'll see is at the top after the professional summary or the profile is an IT competencies or IT profile where you can list your operating systems, databases, programming languages, specific software that might be relevant to the job that you're applying to, certifications that you've obtained maybe at WGU or on your own somewhere else. but the professional experiences, the education section, those pretty much stay the same. Well, if you had any questions, or if there's something that this sparked more information that you wanted to share with us or have us help you, we definitely want you to contact us. That would be at careers@wgu.edu, careers@wgu.edu, and you can certainly contact us, set up an appointment. Here are other resources to get started. Um, These would be hyperlinks if you can link on those. If you can't and it doesn't work um, because of the technology, just go to our homepage. I'm going to give you some information about that in just a minute to contact us, and we'll help you get to the right place. But these are three major categories: resume resources, networking and LinkedIn, and interviewing skills and resources to help you with that. Here's how to contact us. Again, to the left is our drop-in advising. You call that phone number during our hours that are listed, and then one of us will get back to you the same day with that. If you can't find an appointment on the calendar, don't worry about it. You can still contact us with our drop-in advising, and there's also our email address there for any additional questions that you may have. The resume support is that center one. That's where you would go to request a review. We do have a specific process for a resume review that we ask you to go through. That will take you there as well. And then the last box to the right is our one-on-one advising appointments, where you'll be able to set up an appointment with any of our advisors who are available with that. So we want to give you some good options to make contact with us. And that is our presentation.